Hey Booktube, it's Kim at middle of the book march. This is my bookish week for Saturday, June 5th, 2021. Oh, let's see. I had a very busy bookish week last week. I had a busy week anyway, but I finished 4 books last week. Yes, 4. And 2 of them I can only show you because they are for the Booktube Prize, so I'm not going to tell you anything about them or my feelings about them. Let me talk to you about the 2 that I can express emotions for. The first one is George Orwell's 1984. This was a buddy read with Karen Evans from the same named channel, and we read this at the beginning of last week. I pretty much blew through it. I couldn't stop myself. This was a reread for me. I first read it in 1984 when Karen did not exist yet. I'm old. And I really liked it then. I was a high school senior and I was bothered by it. I was disturbed by it. But it was nothing compared to how I felt about it reading it now. It is almost impossible for me to read this book and not make the comparisons to Trump's presidency. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But here's the deal. 1984 was written by George Orwell and published originally in 1949. And this is pretty much a classic of dystopian fiction. He writes about a world after an atomic war where the world has been divided up into 3 superpowers. And the main character in the book is Winston Smith. He lives in Oceania. And the atmosphere and the culture is all run by an invisible big brother. That's where the term big brother comes from. There are so many cliches and phrases that come from 1984. Big Brother is one of them. Doublethink, the thought police. This is a very harrowing and scary novel. Winston Smith is part of the party under Big Brother. Big Brother's face is plastered everywhere in the city. People are assigned apartments to live in. They are assigned spouses. They are watched constantly by telescreens built into their walls. They all wear the same types of overalls, and they all go to jobs that serve the party, serve Big Brother. Winston's job is to basically rewrite history. The party is removing all evidence of history, literature, art, anything from the past. They are rewriting it. They are rewriting a dictionary. They are removing words from the language in order to write the party's accounts and the party's thoughts. It's grim and it's harrowing, and every citizen is watched constantly. Now, Winston has kind of an attitude of this isn't right, but he knows you can't even think a certain way because the thought police might pick you up. They might read your thoughts in the expressions of your faces. And so you have to maintain a blank stare at all times. His internal dialogue throughout the novel, you know that he realizes this existence is not okay. This is not right. Who is Big Brother? Why do I need to maintain my loyalty? He breaks out of that abject loyalty that is expected of him. He purchases a notebook that he uses as a journal. He is looking around him at all times to make eye contact with another person who may think the same way that he does. And eventually he meets a woman. And plot ensues from there. This is a book filled with political overtones and undertones of Soviet Russia, of Nazi Germany, of oligarchies and totalitarian governments. It is just terrifying. And there's so many quotes that if you Google quotes from 1984, you get an endless list of things. In the very beginning of the novel, you get a description of the different ministries that are involved in Oceania. And it says, Doublethink also lies behind the names of the super ministries that run things in Oceania. The Ministry of Peace wages war. The Ministry of Truth tells lies. The Ministry of Love tortures and eventually kills anybody who it deems a threat. And then the last one is the Ministry of Plenty, which was responsible for economic affairs. It's terrifying. And I changed my initial rating to a 5-star rating because there's too many times when this book, in such a timeless way, describes the potential for our current political and cultural climate to switch. And there are so many references and applications that you can make in reading this narrative. The end, part 3 in room 101, oh, that's all. I'm not going to say anymore, but this is an exceptionally written dystopian novel. It's an exceptionally written book. The next book I just finished, is a collection of poems by Joyce Carol Oates called American Melancholy. This was very good, and I've said before, I'm not a big poetry fan, but I really enjoy poetry written in a realistic way and very straightforward language. I am not one to parse through symbolic language in poetry or metaphors or kind of dream language or fantasy. I don't understand it, and I don't want to feel stupid. This collection is exactly like the title says, American Melancholy. It's melancholic, it's depressing, it's dark, angering, it's all of those things. And I gave this 4 stars. Every single poem is not the same success for me. It doesn't evoke the same types of emotions. I didn't like how some were written, but overall, I really liked this collection. Some of the best poems, I'll just read you the titles. Some of them are very short, some of them are longer. Some of the best ones, Little Albert, 1920. I had no idea who Little Albert was. Little Albert was an infant boy in 1920. I think he was anywhere from 9 to 10 months old. And behavioral psychological experiments were performed on him to see how easy it was to condition fear behavior. And we look at those experiments now, and no scientist in their right mind would ever be able or be allowed to conduct those types of experiments on a baby or a child. And what was done to him would now be looked at as illegal. And so Joyce Carol Oates writes a poem about that. There is another one, To Marlon Brando in Hell. Very clearly, she at one point enjoyed the entertainment of Marlon Brando, the actor, but just pours her anger, darkness, and rage at him as a person into this poem. Let's see. There's one called, I'm trying to get to it, Hate Fugue. She writes about the Holocaust and the things that Nazis did to Jewish people, and she writes it in such a way as, it's horrifying that we make art out of this time in history, but without it, we may not remember. So another one after Little Albert 1920 was Harlow's Monkeys. That was so difficult to read. And then Obedience, 1962, where there's that experiment where two men are in a room, and one man is in charge of delivering electric shocks to the other man, and he can't tell what's happening. All he knows is he's turning the dial up as instructed, and he continues to turn it up to the point where he's delivering abject pain to another person, but he can't see them on the other side of the wall. He can hear the screams. And so that was incredibly harrowing to read. The very last poem is Palliative, which almost brought tears to my eyes. And she's writing about her husband's end of life. And it's so poignant, and it's heart-rendering, very emotional, and you can read and you can feel the love she poured into that poem about the end of life of her husband. So those are the two that I am able to talk to you about. And there are the other two. I was assigned the Nonfiction Group F, I think. Robert, you can correct me, but I think that's the one. I was assigned nonfiction in the semifinals for the Booktube Prize. And funny, I haven't read any of the dang 6 books, and guess what? You'll see what I gotta read. But I read 2 already, and they're very short. They're the 2 shortest books. I just finished Conditional Citizens by Layla Lalami. And no, I'm not going to tell you anything about what I thought of the book, but I did finish this. And the other one was on my Kindle. The one on my Kindle is Inferno. I don't know if you can see that. Inferno by Catherine Cho. The subtitle is A Memoir of Motherhood and Madness. So that was the other one I finished. I have one more on my Kindle that is part of this group, and I will show you the cover of that one. I haven't finished this one yet. I have a sample on my Kindle. I'm waiting for my library to get it through interlibrary loan. This is the After the Last Border, 2 Families and the Story of Refuge in America by Jessica Goudeau. So I will get that one in hard copy. And I have 2 others that are upcoming. One of them I'm currently reading, and actually I have another one. Those are the 2 I finished. I'm also reading Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kolker. Inside the Mind of an American Family. It's regarding a large family and schizophrenia. So this is one on my currently reading for the Booktube Prize. And the 2 longest, very funny joke, Booktube Prize, Robert. I'm reading Barack Obama's memoir, A Promised Land. However, I always have an audiobook going in the car. And so that one is my audiobook, even though I have it in hardcover. However, I am too cheap to buy the audiobook, and it was not on Scribd, so I got it from my library. But my particular library is a small town library, and it does not have the digital copy. So I went old school, and I got the physical CDs for A Promised Land. This box has 28 CDs. What the heck? How long is that going to take me? So that's what I've been listening to in the car, the old school CDs. Thank goodness my car still has a CD player. For any of you millennials or you kids out there who don't know what CDs are, it's those round silver discs that are flat. And guess what? I have to read. I don't know. Oh my gosh. I am officially going to be starting Red Comet by Heather Clark. The Short Life and Blazing Art of Sylvia Plath. I already owned this, and I was really looking forward to reading it, but now I will be under the gun. So I am officially going to be starting this early next week, and will probably let myself have through June and July to read this one. This is, I don't know, 1,100, over 1,000 pages. Yep. And that's what I'm reading for the Booktube Prize. I also have 2 other books I'll be reading in June. I believe not this coming week, probably the week after, or whenever she tells me she got her book. I'm reading The Snake Pit by Mary Jane Ward with Britta Bohler. So I'm just waiting for her to acquire her copy. She's going to let me know when she gets it, and we're going to go from there. And I think this is going to be actually a quick one that we're both going to be interested in, because I don't know how long it is. Why am I bothering to tell you? This one is 330 something pages, but the print is spaced out, which I love. And so I'm really looking forward to this. I just got this from Library of America a little while ago. And for my In Real Life book group, we are reading The Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis. I've never read anything by her before. Contemporary fiction, and I think I have until June 25th. It's 1913, and on the surface, Laura Lyons couldn't ask for more. Her husband is the superintendent of the New York Public Library, allowing their young family to live in an apartment within the grand building. And it also flips to 80 years later in 1993. Sadie Donovan struggles with the legacy of her grandmother, the famous essayist Laura Lyons, especially after she's wrangled her dream job as curator of the New York Public Library. So there's definitely some plot in there that ensues, and there's a time shift back and forth. So I'll be starting this one I don't know, in the next couple of weeks, because I have a very rigid schedule of when I'm going to read and which book I'm going to read that week and all of that fun stuff. So I actually pushed myself to quickly read those first 2 short Booktube Prize books, and that went very well. So now I'm reading Hidden Valley Road and I'm listening to A Promised Land, so that only leaves me 2 more of the 6 for the semifinals. So that's about it for me for this week. My wedding anniversary was May 16th, and my in-laws just sent us a check. They usually send us a check every anniversary, and what we've done in the past several years is we'll go for an overnight somewhere. But for this year, that's not really the best idea for a lot of reasons. So we decided we're gonna ditch the kid, leave her at home, and we're gonna go out for a really nice dinner and maybe do some shopping. And we were joking around that we're gonna go out for dinner, and whatever's left after we go out for dinner, we're gonna split it and go shopping. And we're like, all right, let's go to Taco Bell. We have plenty of money to split, and I'll head to the bookstore, and my husband will head to like the Trading Post or an outdoor store or whatever. So we were kind of laughing about that. But no, we will go out to a decent dinner and have a date night. So yeah, that was our laugh of the pre-weekend, and that's about it. I'm actually filming this on Friday afternoon, and I took Friday off from work, so I'm going to have plenty of time to get going on Hidden Valley Road. And that's about it for me. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you are reading some good stuff. Write me a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.